What is going on? Germain Craddock here, and today I have the ChirpWheel from Chirp. And essentially what the ChirpWheel is a smaller, more narrow foam roller that's really designed to roll out the muscles along the sides of your spine. And so we're talking about the rhomboids, which are between your shoulder blades. We're talking also about your spinal erectors, which run the entire length of your spine. And so here, because this roller is about 5 inches wide and it's a lot more narrow, it can really slot nicely along the entire length of your spine. Especially when we're comparing this to a traditional 26-inch foam roller like I have here from TriggerPoint, or a 13-inch foam roller, your entire back is going to lay across this entire foam roller, and you're really just going to emphasize all of the muscles in your back, and it's not going to be necessarily as specific. So it's a lot more of a broad strokes tool to roll out the entirety of your back. And so if you want a lot less discomfort because you're not emphasizing a part of your back specifically, a traditional foam roller is going to be a lot nicer because more of your back is going to rest upon it, and so you don't have a lot of weight in just one specific area. Now on the other side, we have a peanut lacrosse ball. And so a peanut lacrosse ball like I have here, which is about 2.5 inches in diameter, is going to be very aggressive. And so the muscles that you have along the entirety of your spine right here, if you dig in with a peanut lacrosse ball, can be quite a gruesome experience if you're not used to it. And so if you're not really ready and you're not really able to lay on a peanut lacrosse ball because it is just too aggressive for you, a ChirpWheel, because it does come in a 6-inch, 10-inch, and a 12-inch variation, might actually be better for you because you have more surface area resting upon it. And so I have the 6-inch variation here that I got. I purchased this myself. Chirp did not send it to me. And before I get started, I want to get a nice message to you from Chirp. Happy birthday to your back. Thank you, Chirp. I appreciate it. So without further ado, let's get to unboxing. And in here we have instructions, don't need those, and the ChirpWheel. The ChirpWheel is covered in some padded foam, so it should be a little more comfortable to lay on, and it does have a solid PVC or polycarbonate core in it, which is rated for 500 pounds. And one of the most standout features of this ChirpWheel is that we have this groove right here in the middle. And what this groove is designed for is that your spine is actually going to slot right here into the groove, and you're going to emphasize your muscles either side because of this indentation. And so really, really important feature about here, because when I was using another yoga wheel, it was solid, and when I used that, I was rolling out my spine, and that's not comfortable at all. And so I returned that, and I bought this instead. Now, what I'm going to be doing from this point is essentially comparing this to my foam roller, my 13 and 16-inch TriggerPoint, my peanut lacrosse ball, and also peanut balls, and giving you a better idea of how this slots into your recovery workflow, and hopefully helping you make a better informed decision as to whether you should be purchasing this or something else in order to help you with your recovery. So, on that note, I need to roll out my back. In order to roll out your mid-back using the ChirpWheel, you want to make sure you line up your spine with this groove right here. Your muscles are going to rest on the elevated portion, so you can really emphasize your traps, your rhomboids, and your spinal erectors. The positioning that you want to do when you're rolling out your mid-back is you want to pivot your back against the ChirpWheel and plant your feet down and bridge up. So that way the pivoting point is where you're rolling out, because most of your weight is going to be on your back and some of it's going to be distributed to your feet. And here you can roll out your mid back all the way to your upper back between your shoulder blades. So we're talking traps, rhomboids, and spinal erectors. The nice thing here is that you're going to roll out the entire length, and you can also add a chest stretch if you so choose. It's really going to be possible when you use the 10 or the 12-inch ChirpWheel variation. Because of that larger diameter, it will lift you slightly further off the ground. But you can potentially add it to the 6-inch variation, but that's really going to be more dependent on how tight your chest actually is. Now, there is also the possibility to roll out your lower back using the ChirpWheel. However, I traditionally recommend using a peanut ball because it will keep your lumbar spine in more of a neutral position. That being said, if you don't have a peanut ball and you do have a foam roller like this, or you do have the ChirpWheel, there are some ways that you can roll out your lower back using this. And basically the name of the game is going to be 3 points of contact. So your shoulder blades and your feet and the ChirpWheel are your 3 points of contact. Your shoulder blades are resting either on a bench or your couch or the floor, and your feet are going to be resting either on the bench or the couch or the floor. So you have 3 points of contact, so your lumbar spine stays as neutral as possible and you're not going through lumbar hyperextension, because when you do so, it really will compress your lumbar spine, and that can be really strongly contraindicated for a lot of people, either because of spinal compression or because they have a lower back injury, and you do not want to go through lumbar hyperextension when you are having those issues. So I would say stay away from a really emphasized lumbar extension and really arching your lower back over the foam roller, because it is going to be relatively unsafe for most people. If you find that the 6-inch ChirpWheel is still a little too aggressive for you, you can decrease the load significantly by having more points of contact, so keeping your arms on the ground, keeping your hips down, and really just focusing on having as little weight as possible on the ChirpWheel. And you can even take it a step further by essentially doing a wall sit against the wall or against your doorway and having the ChirpWheel resting against your back and just rolling the length of it using the ChirpWheel. I also find this is really effective when using a peanut ball. However, you will find this to be a little more on the deep tissue side because of that smaller surface area, smaller contact area you do have when you're rolling. One of the biggest questions I had before purchasing the ChirpWheel was, can you treat it like a traditional foam roller? And I would say sort of. However, there are some caveats to that. So here, obviously, this is a 5-inch width versus this TriggerPoint is a 13-inch width. And so because of that 5 inches, you will notice that the ChirpWheel will have that tendency to tip over if you're not perfectly centered. Versus on a 13-inch or even 26-inch TriggerPoint, I don't have to worry about that at all. So when you are rolling, let's say not just your upper back, but your lats, your glutes, your hamstrings, your quads, your calves, any of those other muscles on the ChirpWheel, you want to make sure that you're actually properly centered up, or you have more points of contact, because you will have that tendency to tip over. And that was just with the 6-inch variation. I imagine you probably can't foam roll really at all on the 10 or the 12-inch ChirpWheel because they are so much larger and because you are going to have much more of a tendency to tip over. And even myself, when I was using this just to try it out to foam roll, I had quite a few of occasions that I actually timbered on over because I wasn't perfectly centered up. While I did only purchase the 6-inch ChirpWheel, it was still a little over $50 with shipping. So it doesn't come cheap. And the pack of 3 is $100. Comparing that to my peanut ball, which is $12, and my 13-inch TriggerPoint, which is $35. So I can cover my bases with these two for the same exact price. I have deep tissue rolling with my peanut ball and general foam rolling with my TriggerPoint. However, the ChirpWheel really stands apart when you compare it to other yoga wheels. The big features being the weight rating, the soft foam padding, and the groove. This groove is the must-have feature you have for rolling out your paravertebral muscles that just isn't found in other yoga wheels. And because you can rest your spine in here and focus on your muscles either side of your spine with this groove, this is basically in a class of its own, and no other yoga wheels that I found have this feature. And so while it is more expensive than other yoga wheels you find on, let's say, Amazon, they don't have this feature. And so for me, I had to return my other yoga wheel because I was feeling my spine being compressed when I was rolling, and it just really wasn't comfortable. That's not found in this. Additionally, this isn't talked about as much. However, travelability for a foam roll is another feature that is kind of helpful. I would say the 13-inch TriggerPoint, it is travelable. It is slightly larger because it is 13 inches. However, because it is hollow, you can stuff it with socks and underwear or clothes or shirts, whatever you want. And it is pretty nice to travel with because it does have that hollow core in it. The same thing is found on the ChirpWheel. It is hollow, it's about 6 inches wide, and you can fill it full of socks. And so for me, traveling, because I can foam roll on the ChirpWheel, I would probably leave my 13-inch at home and bring this with me along with my peanut ball, because I can get my deep tissue and I can get my general rolling while making some modifications or being mindful of my balance and where I'm placing my body. Now, if you didn't have, let's say, a 13-inch TriggerPoint wheel and you wanted a very travel-friendly foam roller, the Brazen foam roller is probably your best bet, but I think that's about $60. And so that's really gonna be up to you to decide if being able to compact and basically put your foam roller flat and then open it up and make it a traditional foam roller is worth it to you. However, for me, because I have a 26 and 13-inch TriggerPoint and I have these two as well, there's not really a point for me to get that on top of all the other rollers I have already. And which is why I'm going to be rolling with these when I do travel. So who is the ChirpWheel for and who is it not for? I would say the ChirpWheel is not going to be for you if you can't stand being on a foam roller more than 3 seconds. Ooh, no. That hurts. Because you do have less surface area being covered on the ChirpWheel, and it will be deeper tissue than a traditional foam roller, the ChirpWheel is going to be probably too aggressive for you if you can't be on a regular foam roller. While that may not necessarily be the case using the 10-inch or the 12-inch variation, they are still about 5-6 inches wide, and so you will find that they are going to be deeper on your paravertebral muscles. Additionally, the ChirpWheel is not going to be great if you're expecting really, really deep tissue rolling. If you buy this expecting deep tissue rolling, you're going to be SOL, and you're going to be much better served buying the peanut ball. On the other side, the ChirpWheel is going to be great for people that have paravertebral tightness in their muscles. Same thing when it comes to the peanut ball, because it slots so nicely between your shoulder blades. And let's be honest, most people have tight traps, most people have tight rhomboids, and most people have tight spinal erectors. And so this is really great for basically everybody because it does roll out those muscles so well. Additionally, for me, I find that I really like using this at night when I'm watching TV with my girlfriend, because I can get deeper tissue on my paravertebral muscles than I do with the foam roller, and it's easier for me to watch TV because I can kind of sit up and prop up a little bit more and actually see the TV that's mounted on the wall, versus when I use the peanut ball, I'm basically staring at the ceiling and it's a lot harder for me to watch TV. And I know that's kind of a weird perk, but it's really one of the reasons I use this a lot more than my foam roller, my peanut ball at night, because I can actually watch TV and just kind of play chicken with my muscles and just sit on there and help them just melt away by being on there for a lot longer period of time. Which ChirpWheel should you buy? The 12-inch variation being the largest is going to be nicer for softer tissue rolling, and the 6-inch is going to be better for deeper tissue rolling. Whereas I imagine the 10-inch is going to be nice for Goldilocks rolling, so deep-ish and soft-ish tissue rolling. And the 10 and 12-inch variation will allow you to incorporate that chest stretch I mentioned earlier. And I'm sure other stretches that I didn't talk about, but I also didn't read about because I didn't look at the instruction manual. So there's that. Now, would I recommend the ChirpWheel if I wasn't reviewing it? And that's where I come up with a bit of a mixed bag response. In the yoga wheel community, I would say this is in a league of its own, and it really stands out as the best yoga wheel you can buy. The groove, the other features I mentioned earlier, just make this the best yoga wheel that is out there. However, because I already had a peanut ball and I have a number of different foam rollers, it's a little hard for me to give you my 100% recommendation, yes, you should buy this. That being said, if you are looking for paravertebral rolling and you are wanting to get a yoga wheel, this is definitely the one you should get. For me as well, me rolling out while watching TV like I wasn't doing before at all, and actually doing so regularly every single night, is a bit of more of an incentive for me to say, yes, this is worthwhile to buy. However, it really depends on you, your needs, and if it's actually worth spending $50 for one of these or $100 for the whole set of 3. And so that's really where your opinion is going to come into play here. And I'd love to hear more about whether you'll be purchasing the 6, 10, or 12-inch variation, or buying a peanut ball or the TriggerPoint roller instead, because this really hasn't met your needs, or you found something that's actually better altogether. So please leave a comment down below, let me know what you'll be getting. And that's all for today's video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. A bientôt.